He's been in the job just under a week, and already newly instated Bank of Japan Governor Kuroda is making waves as he spoke to Japanese Parliament today. On the phone with me to discuss market response to his comments is Lutz Karpowitz of Commerzbank. Hi Lutz, thank you for joining me. Japanese government bonds have reached a near-decade low today as new BoJ Governor Kuroda suggested to Parliament the purchasing of longer-dated government bonds in an effort to push down interest rates. Is this market response supportive of Kuroda's stance?
The market reaction was obviously something he favored. It was some kind of a verbal intervention, I would say. Now with lower bonds, Kuroda knows that he might create some impact on the economy, but it won't be a too big one. But in general, I think that he will be quite satisfied with today's market reaction.
Kuroda also highlighted a need for diversification in monetary policy, indicating a shift away from quantitative easing. Is this attitude really surprising, given that QE has thus far failed to pull the Japanese economy out of deflation?
Well, that's exactly the point. I mean, if you look at the general interest rate levels in Japan, you can see that a corporate leader deciding not to invest, his problem will obviously not be too high capital costs. But his problem is rather that he expects prices to fall further and therefore the demand to be rather low. So, and we also have a problem in the U.S. where we can see that there is hardly any connection between QE measures and the labor market development. So that's something I would definitely agree with Mr. Kuroda, that just with more quantitative easing, it will not be enough to fuel the economy, but it is definitely one way to end deflation.
Yet, prior to Kuroda's appointment, the BoJ had already pledged to pump 101 trillion yen into the economy. Does this suggest perhaps the limits on Kuroda's jurisdiction and that QE will remain on Prime Minister Abe's agenda?
Well, the 101 trillion, where this is the old program, and so it's always up to BoJ to create another program. And if it comes to quantitative easing, Kuroda and Mr. Abe are very, very close allies. So I wouldn't see the BoJ to be limited in any way. So if they want to run another program or even a more aggressive one, they can just do it, because they will get full support from Japanese government as well.
There's been much speculation surrounding Kuroda's vow to reach the 2% inflation target and how realistic it is. What are your thoughts here?
Well, it is quite realistic. It depends on your time frame. I mean, if you want to create inflation of 2% within 6 months, it will not work. But if you start to increase more to increase liquidity, to fuel more liquidity into the economy, you end up in inflation at some point. But it might take some time. So it's not a question of if they can reach it or not. It's just a matter of time. But the point is, I mean, with high inflation, you will also get higher interest rates, and we know that you always get something we call risk premium on inflation. So that means your yields are rising even quicker than inflation does, which means that the debt service for the government will be more difficult. So this is a very negative side effect, and I'm not really sure if the Japanese government is aware of that problem.
Focusing on currency for just a moment, the Japanese yen has been at the centre of a currency debate, with today's comments sending the yen into further decline against its major peers. Yen depreciation has been a long-term bugbear for many currency traders, and with Japanese companies restricting overseas acquisitions in the first 3 months of 2013, are we beginning to see this translate into real consequences?
What you mentioned is actually the other side of the coin. I mean, governments all around the world try to weaken their own currencies to fuel competitiveness of their export sector, but it also damages the purchasing power of your companies abroad, or increases the the price of import products. So this is the other side of the coin, and it only makes clear that actually over the long term, a strong currency is actually not a problem of all, because if your corporates have time to adjust, and if you've got low inflation, I mean, if you look at Japan, they've got deflation, so that means you shouldn't only look at the exchange rate to get an idea about the development of your price competitiveness. But as I said, in the long term, I would say a strong currency is not a problem for an economy, and as you have to pay less export products for the same amount of import products, if you've got a strong currency, it even increases the wealth of your economy.
And lastly, taking all of this into consideration, what do you think we can expect from next week's policy meeting?
Very difficult to say. I mean, the market expectation is pretty high. I mean, we can see it in dollar-yen rates. We saw it this morning, as you mentioned, in the JGB yields. So the market is really looking for some kind of new program, new bond purchases by BoJ, and I think it is already rather difficult for Mr. Kuroda to surprise on the expansionary side. So that would actually call for dollar-yen to get under pressure after the announcement. But on the other hand, I talked to so many people, and they all told me, look, dollar-yen will suffer after the announcement because it will not be enough because the market expects so much. So if everybody expects it already, that dollar-yen will drop, I'm not so sure anymore. It might depend in the end on where we are in our actual trading band between 92 and 96. So if it's more on the upper side, we might get some more pressure. But if you ask for any numbers, how much they might buy or what they might buy, this would be really, really very difficult speculation, and it's pretty hard to say. But they have to deliver something really spectacular just to meet the market expectations.
Lutz, thank you very much. I'll be back tomorrow with an up-close look at the UK current account. Until then, goodbye.